The world doesn't revolve around the United States, except it does, whether you like it or not. That's why when our president announced today another 100% tariff on Chinese imports effective November 1st, the entire world market crashed. And it wasn't just US markets that suffered. Yeah, the US lost $1.65 trillion in stocks. That was a bloodbath. $250 billion was wiped out in crypto market cap today. And remember, the entire world is trading in crypto, not just the United States. Every European market witnessed at least a 1% drop, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index also dropped by about 1.7, 1.8% as a result of just the announcement. But my prime indicator for how the world market is doing is the price of oil. And that sucker dropped below $60. That is not a very good sign. Earlier this year, it also touched this level, and before that, it was when we were recovering from the huge recession after 2020. So right now, there is no country that can alter the course of the markets to the scale that the United States can. The only exception to that rule was Saudi Arabia under OPEC, but once the U.S. developed their own strategic petroleum reserve, and then we started getting our oil from shale successfully, Saudi Arabia lost that leverage. I'm not trying to brag or say, oh, America is so great. This is just the fact. Okay, just like saying China is the world's largest manufacturer, they have so much influence over global manufacturing. That's not a boast or saying a bad thing. That is just a fact. And while China's dominance is absolutely through its manufacturing, the United States' dominance is through its dollar, which is still the world's main currency. 88% of all global foreign exchange transactions happened through the dollar. 58% of global exchange reserves are US dollars, and 54% of all global trade, the entire planet, was done in US dollars. But some people are saying, well, you know what? I mean, India has been using China's currency to purchase Russian oil. So there you go, dollar. Well, let me tell you something. Rupees are nearly a worthless currency. So Russia doesn't want to have a huge pool of rupees in their forex reserves. They want to have something that's a lot more tradable. They would prefer the dollar, but they can't get access to it. So, of course, they are going for the Chinese yuan. And nobody's going to be flocking to the yuan to rival the US dollar for the sheer fact that China is still holding on to at least $750 billion of US treasuries, and they are sitting on about $2 trillion of US equities and cash. And when it comes to debt markets, right now there's about $100 trillion floating around in public debt, and about 30% of that is debt issued by nations like China, Italy, the United States. Well, okay, so $30 trillion. Well, $9 trillion of those dollars, so about 33%, is just debt from the United States. All of the other countries have the other 66%. And the number 2 spot in that position is Japan. They have about $1.4 to $1.5 trillion of their debt held by other countries. So that kind of shows you the disproportionate level of influence of just US debt. In fact, every wealthy Middle Eastern country, especially Saudi Arabia, directly peg their own currency to the United States dollar. China kind of does too, because as I've mentioned before, they are sitting on at least $2 trillion of US cash and equities. Well, they literally just buy and sell US dollars through their own forex markets to manipulate their own currency. And the Chinese generally do this to keep the value of their currency low enough to keep their exports competitive. So if you wrap all that up, no other country has that level of influence over the world aside from the United States. Now, obviously, nothing lasts forever, but the US economy has been through much worse than this, and so has the world economy. Just remember, the US went off the gold standard in 1973, and people thought we were going to completely collapse by the end of the decade, and here we still are. But to be honest, the United States needs to have some kind of formidable competitor, kind of like what we had with the USSR, but hopefully smarter, because only then can the United States actually stay on their toes and not be so fiscally reckless. If you guys want to know more about the US dollar hegemony, let me know and I'll make more posts about it. Thanks for watching.